Hello, this is Richard Paul Hobbs at gmail.com or poor for Trump at gmail.com or poor Richard Paul Hobbs for FORPRES for Prez at gmail.com. Richard Paul Hobbs for Prez at gmail.com. If you put any of those those email addresses into YouTube or Facebook, you might come close to getting many of our many videos we've been making for 5 years or longer, depending which ones are being kept from being seen, as best that system can keep truth from being promulgated over their services. And now here I am. I'm in the Abrazo Central Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona at 2000 Bethany Home Road. They're wanting me to agree to go to a place they're calling the Palazzo. And this is going to be the fourth time around that we go through this adventure, this scenario in Phoenix. And the truth is that Phoenix is one big, huge, fraudulent community run on fraud, based on fraud. Everything here there's nothing that's obvious and clear. Don't move to Phoenix. It's the worst place you could possibly move to, unless you have a lot of money and you really don't care what happens to you, because you won't have any control over yourself. And certainly don't come here if you're poor. This is no place for the poor. And the community it claims to be the fifth largest community in the United States. And what it is the third or fourth worst community in the United States for anything, no matter what you say or do. If you're in a wheelchair like I've been, and you want to ride on the public transportation, they have every sort of rule and regulation that most of the money funding their public transportation comes through the ADA and through Congress. And yet every single rule and regulation, everything's set up to try to cause it to be proactively helpful to ADA persons, causes the system to be worthless and harmful to anyone in a wheelchair who are really ADA. And I was injured at the airport a year ago around August, and the entire community, all the lawyers, all the judges, everybody, including a whole bunch of persons from Washington, are happy to make sure that it never happens to become true, noticed or observed, that the entire transportation system here and all the people that made a fortune putting it up wasted the taxpayer money, wasted your money, and created the worst thing they could possibly create. One good example is, if you're in a wheelchair and you want to get on the light rail, you have to go across the street, and that street's going to have drivers who may be high while they're driving their vehicle. And they are not telling, the media, the news media, isn't telling people the truth about what's going on here, because they only put on their media and their paper selected stories. And they always change it in such a way so that it's not quite exactly the way it really is, except every once in a while they get one they're glad to tell the truth about, and they use fear, and they use the fact that they're all elites compared to the rest of the people to manipulate the society. You cannot get onto a light rail in a wheelchair without having to cross the street where the traffic light twitches too quickly before you can even push the button and get to the street. And I've 3 times in 3 days almost was killed or hit my wheelchair by a driver who just went on, and there's nothing there. It's all fluff and what Jesus used to call the results of yeast in bread. And now I'm in the Abrazo hospital, and they did the same irrational, unprofessional care for me that was done in the 3 other hospitals here. And there's no choice. They're all not any good. If you have any concern for your own safety and success, The doctors don't know what they're doing. The systems are dysfunctional, and people demand information from you, and they won't give you enough facts for you to be able to give them the answer. And it just doesn't work. I've had some of the best doctors in the world care for me. I've had some of the worst, and we'll go through the details at another point because there's too much to say here. But right now, I'm having to decide if I want to go to the Palazzo. And I called the Secretary of State, and I've called the Corporation Commission, and everything is set up so that everyone's pretending that if you really want to sue someone or talk to someone that's in charge and making money off of other people by doing oppressive things, you should be able to do it. But the truth is, it's all a bunch of fraud. You call up, you give them a name, you can't even find out who the attorney is who represents some entity here that's large. So you can write them a letter or call them. You can't call them. You can get their address. And it's completely, if you understand what the Purnell iron law of bureaucracy is about, it's complete. It's exactly that, just the way it should be. Institutions exist for the continuation of the institution. Once they get 6 months or 8 months into existence, the institution then becomes the most important thing. And the reason for which the institution is established becomes meaningless, purposeless. And there are millions of, maybe not millions, there are many charities, churches, corporations, government institutions, and up and down the line that were created to solve some problem. And within 6 months, now this focus stopped to be the problem, solving of that problem, and the continuance of that entity as an institution forever and ever and ever. And that's the church or charity. They'll talk to you about how to create a sustainable business. And if your purpose is to end cancer, and you end cancer, then you have a problem because there's no longer a need for your institution. So then you have things happening like has happened in this country, which once you have the American Cancer Association, then that guarantees you that it will take much longer and be much harder to resolve cancers than could be if you didn't have that, and if you just didn't go around the loop and up the thing and do insane things that every institution has purpose of working for them do, because they make a profit off of their existence rather than solving the problem. Now, anyone have any idea how to find out who the owners are of the Palazzo? It's some kind of a skilled nursing facility in Phoenix. Anyone have any idea who the attorney of records are for the Abrazo Hospital and their owners and their third-party owners and every Mickey Mouse thing that there is, and how I can call an attorney so that I can speak to them, attorney to attorney, and tell them how it is that what's going on here is dysfunctional, and we're going to take them to court, and we're going to present it to a jury in a way that the courts are not going to be allowed to stop us from presenting the information. And we'll do that to fix it. And if we lose, we'll have the record of it. But we won't lose, but I need you to help me. We need to work together, because I'm too old for any of this to matter to me. But you're young enough and you're important enough that you got to decide if you want a fraudulent world you live in, doing fraudulent things, pretending it's not, or you want to solve problems. And instead of a century from now, still be using 18th century ideas to run your life, to let the best ideas run your life that are new, and the best old ideas run your life that are old. Because sometimes you don't have the best idea and you don't get the best results. Other times you have the best idea and you're not allowed to use it. RichardPaulHobbs@gmail.com, 212-470-9154. 5:4. Jesus help us. Amen.